walked past someone in public who may have seemed like they blend in with the rest of the regular people around you, but actually turned out to be different from those people in ways you couldn't have foretold? And have you ever wondered what could really be going on with them from their own perspective, not the world's perception of them? Hi, my name is Alyssa Rodriguez, and today I'll be talking to you about understanding autism. At first glance, I may seem like a normal human being, just like the rest of you. But what you can't tell about me through my appearance, actions, or personality is that I have autism, specifically high-functioning autism. Now, you may be asking yourself, what is autism? Autism is a cognitive condition that affects the development of the brain, which negatively impacts communication and social skills, and can also cause repetitive behavioral patterns. Autism can come with a wide range of symptoms and in different forms that fall under the broader autism spectrum disorder umbrella, which can add a layer of difficulty in one's understanding of it. But in order to fully understand how a person with autism feels, you need to know everything about the condition, because our behavior doesn't always reflect what we may be thinking at the moment. However, a mistake many people make is not doing any sort of research on the matter, instead going on normalized assumptions about autism and what people with it are thinking. Unfortunately, these assumptions are everywhere in the media, in conversations, online, and even in the media. As someone who's experienced the trials and tribulations of having autism ever since childhood, it hurts seeing and hearing us be widely misrepresented as people, no matter where we go. So, what can you do to understand someone who has autism? Well, I believe the first step is to move forward from these misconceptions about autism by understanding what life is really like from the point of view of an autistic person, like me, so that we can work on incorporating a better appreciation of autism into everyday life. For example, imagine you're a school kid playing outside at recess with your friends. You turn around and find another classmate sitting far off by themselves, minding their own business, possibly playing with their toys, reading a book, or, in my case as a child, picking at leaves or dried seeds. You take one good look at your classmate and think to yourself, based on their actions, they probably don't want to have friends, so I'm not going to talk to them. But in reality, it's not that we want to be alone all the time. We want to have friends, and we want to be able to talk to people. It's just our condition that makes that a problem for us. For me, this issue was especially prevalent in my early teenhood, and I continue to struggle with it even today. Around the time I hit the age of 12 and stepped foot into a new school, it felt like my brain was suddenly hard-coded differently from the average person. I had no idea how to start a conversation because when I felt like going up to someone and starting one, my brain was stuck on a seemingly endless loading screen where the words could just never come to me. Maybe it was because my interests were very restricted and I had no one to talk about them with because everyone had no idea what I was even talking about. Maybe it was because I had a hard time understanding other people's emotions and how they feel at a certain moment. So I didn't know how to offer encouragement or sympathy to them. Even whenever I tried to say something on the spot, the words came out so quickly and without any prior thinking that instead of a regular sounding sentence, my speech sounded incredibly robotic, disjointed, and weird. Weird. That's how I felt people at school viewed me, because they rarely ever spoke to me regularly compared to their other friends. And it made me feel so isolated from the community and terrible for my word choices that I wondered if it would be better if I just never talked at all. That's why you see me by myself, not talking most of the time, because I'm scared that I'll sound weird or wrong when I do talk. We want to be able to have conversations and make connections just like a regular person would, but when our skills are affected by a condition that we have little control over, it's hard for anyone to take us seriously. Even when I work up the courage to open up about my condition to people, they are still prone to staying away from me after realizing the fact. Why do they do this? Maybe it's because autism has become very prevalent in recent years with no definitive cause or way to get rid of it, which may have caused some people to become confused, or worse, uneasy and afraid that an epidemic may be on the rise. Statistics show that in the year 2000, the rate of autism diagnosis in the United States was 1 in 150 people. But fast forward to 2 decades later, that rate has drastically increased to 1 in 36 people. Could people have become more overwhelmed about the autistic population over time as more of them were being born or identified? Or compare this increase to similar increases in disease diagnoses? We don't want to seem like a threat, and we don't want to think our autism is a problem or obstacle for others. But something I like to tell myself is that autism is a disorder, not a disease. Though they may sound like the same thing, the circumstances and effects are different. A disease, like cancer, has a known cause and disrupts the body's regular functions. Treatment has a chance of helping get rid of certain diseases in order for a person with one to live regularly without any lifelong dangers to their health, though it's not always likely. For example, the cure rate for tuberculosis patients in the 2020 study sat at 26.3%, and the cure rate for patients infected with both tuberculosis and human immunodeficiency virus was at a mere 23.1%. A disorder, on the other hand, has no known cause and affects our well-being, not our entire system. In addition, treatment can never get rid of a disorder, but it can help support the development of someone who has a disorder. Just because a lot of us have autism doesn't mean we're actively passing it on to others and posing as a risk to their personal health. The uprising in diagnosis simply stems from improvements in the screening process and increased general awareness of autism in the medical field. We're just as capable of living a long and prosperous life as you are, but our condition just hinders that process in many ways. Though the world may never know the true cause of autism, some people have their own theories as to why it happens. One of these theories is that autism is caused by bad parenting, and that a parent's treatment towards their child directly influences the occurrence of autism in the child. This theory is not as new as some may think. In fact, it dates back to as early as the 1940s. Austrian psychiatrist Leo Kanner, one of the first people to discover autism in a medical environment, theorized that the root cause of it and other mental disorders was refrigerator mother syndrome. His claim was that mothers were disdainful towards their children or continually absent from their lives, i.e. refrigerator mothers, traumatized them so much that they developed autism as a result. Kanner's theory was dominant in the field of autism studies in the decades that followed, potentially painting many parents of autistic children in a bad light for decades simply because they're raising a disabled child. But it was never their fault. Disorders, including autism, happen on their own, so even when parents do act sternly or in a way that could be perceived as mean, they're not the ones to blame for why we're the way we are. Take my own parents, for instance. Of course, they're the most loving and caring role models in my life, but sometimes they were rather harsh with me. But no matter how they acted towards me, my autism never appeared at random or changed. I always have been their baby girl living with autism beyond my own control. Just because a child is born or diagnosed with a lifelong condition does not mean the parents are the bad guys. In fact, there aren't any bad guys in this situation. It's just the way life goes. A child may be born with autism right out of the blue, but that doesn't mean the parents don't love them unconditionally. Nor does it mean they're not trying their hardest to provide their child with all of their life's necessities. Now, you have two perceptions of what autism is like, from the lens of the general public and from the lens of autistic people who want to hear the truth be told about them. The main takeaway of this talk? Don't make assumptions about people just because they may act differently from you. Instead, be open to new experiences and unique viewpoints. And if someone may be facing troubles because of their condition, look into ways that you can support them. If someone you know, whether they have autism or not, looks upset or like they need help, ask them if they need a hand. If they seem lonely, welcome them to your lunch table and allow them to take part in the conversation. For parents with an autistic child, therapy is also an efficient method that is shown to help children with autism overcome some of their behavioral patterns that may negatively impact their lives. I, for example, spent much of my childhood in behavioral therapy, which has significantly helped me overcome certain autistic habits, such as hand flapping and failure to maintain eye contact. Surveys also show that ABA therapy in particular, or applied behavior analysis, has yielded positive results in the majority of the 36.5% of autism caregivers that utilize it. The world is a big, beautiful place with many different people in it, including those with autism and other disabilities. But we can make it even more beautiful by embracing the differences we all may behold, inside and out. Thank you.